Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox, and today is going to be a book haul for the month of October. In the last month, I've accumulated a few books that I wanted to share. Most of these are used, so it's a little bit of everything, a little bit all over the place, but a lot of these are actually from authors that I've tried before. I've been trying to get more books from them to decide if I just want to read a lot more by them or if it was just one book that worked for me. We'll find out, but let's start with the two that I did buy new because I'm trying to continue series, specifically fantasy series. I feel like I've been neglecting them, and I'm planning on doing next year a big challenge where I attempt to catch up or finish as many book series as possible, and again, mainly fantasy. I had done that the past 2 years, decided not to this year, and I've been failing at finishing series since. So we're going to go back to it. So I have two that I wanted to talk about. The first one is book two in the, I think this is the Burning Kingdoms, I don't know, series. This is the Oleander Sword. I don't even know how to describe this series to you. Let's be real, high fantasy are just too complex, but I think this one is Indian inspired. It is kind of queer romance a little bit, but you have this empire who was overthrown, and they also are fighting against other people on their land. So like there's a lot going on. And the emperor, the person that used to be, is a brother, and he's sadistic, he's misogynistic, and he wants to burn his sister as a sacrifice. And she says no. So he sends her in exile to this other place in this temple of like nameless god. There are rumors that there are these like magical waters somewhere, and the people that used to work there, pray there, the priest, like priestesses and children that were growing up there, everyone is in hiding, and they don't have access to really that magic. They don't really remember where it is. And one of those children, a person that used to be a child there, works as a servant slash slave, work for the princess, trying to feed her, blah, blah. And there's a little bit of romance there. Hopefully that makes sense, but there is a lot of like weird magic. You don't really know the details in book one, but frankly, there's a bunch of really interesting, complex female characters that all seem very interesting. So I am intrigued in, continuing the series. There's a lot of things that were established and started in book one, and it ends on a pretty intense note. So I was curious to continue, and because of my bad rep, okay, I'm terrible at finishing series, I thought if I own the second book, I will have to read it. So I have it. Hopefully that made sense. I feel like it's just so complicated to explain, but I enjoyed it, which is what matters. And it felt different from all of the other ones because I'm tired of like reading the same thing over and over again, like medieval inspired, and sexist. But in this one, you get really interesting female characters. And the next one is this one. This is An Echo of Things to Come, which is also the second book in this trilogy. The whole series is out, which I feel like that's also a thing for me. I want to prioritize as much as possible the series that are completely out, because a lot of them, the ones I'm currently reading, they're now complete. Like at the end of this year, there's a bunch of them that will be completely out. So like it's time for me to binge read them as much as possible. This one felt like a classic fantasy with like a lot of classic trope, but not necessarily in a bad way. Definitely like Chosen One kind of vibes. And the main character grew up in a magical school, which love those. And he has, those friends there growing up there. He knows he has magical powers, but he's not really able to prove it through tests, but he's able to tell whenever people are lying, which that brings up a point. I feel like a lot of things are almost a little too convenient, but then the author comes back and fixes it a little bit, which is probably the main weakness I had with the book, but I still really enjoyed it. But yes, there's this big test coming up, and he feels like he's going to fail, but then there's an event that happens, and he is sent on a mission to save the world. Let's just say that. A lot happens, but I was really invested. There are still some questions that I have from what happened towards the end of book one, and I can't say that much more because, again, yes, it is the first book in a giant series. There's a lot of complex things happening, but I feel like it would be spoilers. But I enjoyed book one, a little bit to my surprise, with some of the tropes that are used, and I wanted to continue. I have been told by some of you that book two is not the strongest, but I have it. I want to try it, and book three, like I said, is already out, so I can move on to the next one right away once I am done, hopefully. I will need to get my hands on book three, but I have book two now, so I can continue. I would recommend book one. I feel like I didn't make it sound very good, but it was. Okay. Now, the rest. It's a little bit all over the place because, again, used bookstore. But let's start with authors I've read before, but I wanted to read more by them to see if it was one book that I liked or if I liked them in general. And I have been really enjoying her books, which actually someone corrected me on pronunciation. Let me Google it because how to pronounce Jimenez? Okay. I think it's Javi Jimenez. Burn me at the stake. So, I have read 3 of her books, and she writes romance, and I am not a romance reader. With that said, I really enjoyed Part of Her World, Part of Your World, and I wanted to try more, so I read book 3 because they're more companion novels, really, and I also enjoyed that one, and then I read book 2, did not care for it. So I wanted to know, will she be an author I like or not? And I found more of her books, I think it's 1 and 3 also, from this series, which you tell me, please, if I need to read them in order, if they're companion novels like the other one. I feel like it sounds like they're like that too. So the first one is The Friend Zone, and the second one is Life's Too Short. And by the descriptions, they don't necessarily sound like the first thing I would have picked up, but because I really enjoyed her other book, and in theory, I didn't think it was going to be something I loved, I really wanted to try more by her. Hopefully that makes sense. So, The Friend Zone. In this one, main character did go through a surgery. She had to, basically the surgery makes it that she can't have children. And I'm child-free, so I'm always a little nervous about the way this is going to happen, considering that she's not child-free, she's childless, right? She wanted them. And she meets this man who is wonderful, everything she wants, but he wants a big family, so she doesn't feel like they're going to be, they can become a thing or not. So I'm curious how she's going to handle it, but I'm open to it because, again, I really thought that her other romances, or 2 out of 3 that I read, were great. And I really enjoyed how the main male character, again, especially in Part of Your World, felt very mature, so much better. I'm so tired of reading romances where the male character is super toxic. Like, I'm not going to root for them. Like, I don't care that you forgave him. I didn't. So I'm hoping that it's going to be very healthy. It sounds healthy in this one. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. And then the other one, so book 3 in that series, Life's Too Short, main female character is a YouTuber, which thing that makes me a little bit nervous. I feel like I keep reading books with influencers and like I get it, but like I'm always a bit nervous. And in this one, she's a travel YouTuber, and her mother and I think her sister both died before they were 30. So she's very much into trying to live her life to the fullest. Life's too short. And then something happens and she's left with someone's kid. And then the neighbor, the hot neighbor, they become a thing, I think. So we'll find out. But I wanted to try that again. Once again, it sounds like the male character might be more healthy than some of the toxic ones I've been reading. So I'm for the wholesome ones, okay? So this is what's going to happen with her. I'm going to try these 2 books, and we're going to see if she was a 1.5 hit wonder for me, or if in general I want to try more by her. Is book 2 that series good or not? Because it wasn't there, so let me know. Another author I wanted to try more books from is T. Kingfisher, because I've read 3 of her books now, and I wanted to try more. The first one, I got so excited. Both books were there, but I have read book 1. I own book 1 somewhere. But this is What Feast at Night. I did read What Moves the Dead? Something like that. I'll put it on the screen. So I read this last month and really enjoyed it. It's kind of I've been calling it like a soft horror because there are a few moments that are like funny. It's a retelling from a story by Edgar Allan Poe, which I did not read, but it's very gothic, feels almost like haunted house. Are they being poisoned? What's going on? And book 1 was good. It was definitely good. Also short, but great. But the author also included some more like modern takes. It just worked. It worked. So I wanted to try book 2 since it exists. I don't know what this one is going to be about, quite frankly, but I don't really care. I do hope the Mushroom Lady is going to be back and be a more important person in the book because she seemed cool. So it's the same characters, but it's after book 1, whatever happens in book 1. And these characters head to this family hunting lodge. And they find a caretaker dead. So honestly, it doesn't matter what it is about. I was going to read it, but it seems like it's going to be another gothic kind of horror vibes, but soft horror. I don't like the ones that are overly gruesome just for the sake of it, like shocking value. I have moved past that. It's not for me. But first book was good, so I'm assuming book 2 will be too. And then I have this other one that I heard. This is A House with Good Bones. And you guys left me a bunch of recommendation about which book to pick up by her, but that was the one that was there. And it seems like it's going to be another gothic, I think maybe haunted house. Main character gets to the house I think she grew up in. Her mom still lives there, and then things are weird. So that's all it took, really. Like, it's saying like her mom jumps at the smallest noises, looking over her shoulder. So like, has her mom been haunted and she's about to experience it too? So yeah, a big fan of haunted houses. And I'm hoping that it's going to be a similar tone as her other books, because again, I've read 3 and all of them were like slightly humorous and it just worked. So I have that one too. I have 2 more from authors I've tried before. I feel like it's the easiest thing. Either like books that were already on your TBR you've been wanting to find, or authors you've tried before and you want to try more, because why not? So the first one is a modern classic. I'm not sure about this edition, okay? I'll be honest, but I really enjoyed East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and I did like also Of Mice and Men by him, which was really short. So it took me a little bit by surprise, and I ended up finding that it was worth the hype, which doesn't always happen, but I wanted to try more by him, and that's the edition they had, so I picked it up. It's a bit, I don't know, cartoonish for me, but it looks more like these romance books in my head, but whatever. So from what I understand, this one is inspired by, like, it's set in the Great Depression, and the main character's family, they moved from, I think it's Oklahoma. Yep. And they moved to the promised land that is California, and like they're going through it on their way. So we'll see. I feel like, again, it's a description that I'm like, I don't know about that, but because I've really enjoyed another book by him, I'm confident that this is worth at least trying. So I'm expecting great writing like the other one, but yeah, it's written so small. It's like 500 pages, but like it's written tiny. So one day, I feel like this is one of those books that's like, oh, it's on my list to read one day, and one day will happen. I think this is going to end up in my big jar for my Read It on Holiday challenge, and one day I'll pick it up, and it will take me that whole week to read, but it will hopefully be worth it. So let me know actually if you've read this. It's like a modern American classic. Then the last book that I picked up, that I've read 2 books by the author, really enjoyed them, and I knew I was one day going to pick up the next one, but it was a question of finding a copy that wasn't completely destroyed, because that's the thing. I try to not grab the ones that are in bad condition, except if it's a book that I've been really looking for. And I finally found one, so it was time for me to pick up And Then the Mountains Echoed. I've read, like I said, 2 books by Calodicini. Does he have only 3 books? I feel like I've only heard of these 3 books by him, but he's just such a quotable author. I really love Kite Runner and A Thousand Splendid Suns. And again, both of them absolutely fantastic, complex characters, heartbreaking stories. Would you call them historical fiction? Maybe. I think it's set in like 70s, 50s or something, so it might be a stretch. This one 52. So you're following this family. I think this one is a brother and sister. And with their father, they go through a journey through the desert. I'm not sure what's going to happen to them, but I know I'm probably going to cry because Calodicini. So one day I will be picking this up and have a lot of opinions, I'm sure. But yes, let me know if he has more books. But I think this is the last one I have to read by him. So it's sad, but like, it has to happen since I've really enjoyed his other 2 books. Damn it, woman. The next book, I am just going to be honest, because, we're friends. That's what we do. And I picked this up just because I like the edition. I have already read the book. I did technically get rid of the book because the book was just okay. But I collect this edition. This is the only edition I collect of stuff, okay? Yeah. This is the SF Masterworks edition, these yellow classic sci-fi, which they have been extremely hit and miss, but I don't know why I can't help myself. I just want to hoard enough to fill my shelf, and it's almost full. So, yeah, let's, 1984. Listen, I think this is one of those books that I approve the message. I think it's an important book. I'm not saying that the way it's written doesn't portray the message the author wanted to portray. I'm just saying that I read for my enjoyment, and I didn't really enjoy reading it. I feel like I have read other books that do send the same message in a way that I find more appealing, entertaining, enjoyable, whatever. There's like a whole chapter where he's reading a book and it's so boring. But I didn't hate it either, So yeah, it is what it is. I bought it because this is the edition I collect. So no comments. Let's just move on. It's just gonna go on the shelf and that's it. Next. I don't know about you, but I feel like there are books that you hear about and you're like, oh, one day I'll read them, and this is the day that I buy it. Not the day that I will read it, but I own it. One day I will read it. I have no idea if I will enjoy it because I feel like I'm the last person on earth to have not watched the movie. Maybe I don't hang out with enough boys for that to happen, but The Godfather. I feel like this is a classic that you hear a lot of men saying, oh, it's my favorite movies. And like, is this supposed to be a red flag? I don't know. You tell me. I feel like there are books or movies that are definitely red flags. Like, if you tell me that The Wolves of Wall Street is your favorite movie, but this is about the mafia, I guess. Is it the first considered like mafia family? Corleone family in the 40s, criminal underworld, compelling tale of blackmail, murder, family values, a true classic that remains as shocking 50 years later. Is it going to piss me off? You know me better. You tell me. But I did try to look it up on Goodreads, and the reviews are fairly like the majority of the reviews were really, really positive. A little bit to my surprise. I thought it was going to be like, ugh, don't read it. But the reviews, people loved it. So I took the risk. I picked it up, and eventually I'm going to read it. It's thicker than I thought it was going to be. It's almost 600 pages. And like I said, I have absolutely no idea what the story really is because I've never watched. There's more than one movie, right? See? No idea. So yeah, you tell me if I should put this higher on my TBR or if I should just wait until it comes out of my giant jar, or if I should read it because you think I'm going to hate it. Hopefully not. I genuinely hope that this is worth reading because, again, it's a book that you hear about and you're like, oh, one day. And today's the day that I bought it. Not that I will read it. Also, I do have a few audiobook that I got from Libro FM, which this isn't sponsored in any way, but it is an app and they do let influencers get copies. And I also have a link if you use it and make a purchase, I can get more audiobooks. But I thought it would be fun to just let you know some of the ones that I did pick up. That way you can tell me which ones I should read ASAP. I'm currently actually listening to We Solve Murders, and I am truly enjoying it. You're going to see this. I'm going to be done by the time I post this video, but it's like a cozy kind of murder mystery. Same author that wrote the Thursday Murder Club, which that's even cozier, but I feel like there's just something about the English accent that makes murder mysteries more cozy. And the main female character is a bodyguard to rich and famous people, but someone is trying to frame her, putting her blood in crime scenes of influencers, which is why, I mean, I feel like I've read so many books lately with influencers in there, but I'm enjoying the tone. I even giggled a few times, which, like, if a book can make me laugh, please do. But yes, that's one of the first one. I did also get a copy of A Pirate's Life for tea because I'm currently reading it on my e-reader, and I'm terrible at remembering that these books exist, so I do have it as an audiobook. I also got okay, this one, it's because it was free, okay? I took the risk, and I picked up The Night We Lost Him, which I did hate the other book by the author. But this is her newest release, and I do like to give authors a second chance. I did not see any of the reviews yet for her newest release, but second chances. Maybe the first one just didn't work for me and I will want to try more by her. We'll see. And then the last but not least, I did get The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which I think is like a cozy fantasy with a little bit of spice. And I had seen only great reviews. Again, you look on Goodreads, everyone seems to love it. And then the second I mentioned that I wanted to read this, a lot of you told me that I was going to hate it or that you hated it. And like a lot of you. So I'm really nervous, but I feel like the vibes sound really good. And a lot of you told me also that there is another one that is better, Cinnamon Bookstore or something. And there's a bunch of themed ones. Like there's a Christmassy one that just came out and I'm a sucker. So I don't mind all Hallmark kind of romances, but I don't know what to expect at this point, but I will be trying it and we'll see if we agree or not, but I'm open to it. So those are the ones that sound appealing out of the list that I was given access to for the last 2 months. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this little book haul. Like I said, it's a little bit all over the place, but not in a bad way. I hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up, subscribe. I'll put more on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in a coming video very soon. Bye. I feel like I'm especially excited for the fantasy series because I need to get back to work. and need to actually read because, oh my gosh.